consultant 360 artist, Stephanie McIntyre Groves, artistic director, PAH Deaf Dance, Colin Blackwood, executive director, The Company Dance Theatre, Barry George, president, National Dance Association, Sophia McCain, head of education department, Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, School of Dance, Juanita Phillips, artistic director, the Arabesque Dance Company. Please help me give a rousing applause to welcome our esteemed guests. Thank you. And right about now, we are going to introduce our speakers to you. Ms. Lisa Callender. Ms. Lisa Callender is a capacity building specialist and strategist and founder of private consulting firm Pro Trade Consult. Her 15-year career as an autonomous consultant has fielded the implementation of projects across all CARIFORUM countries, as well as in Costa Rica, India, Montserrat, Seychelles, Tanzania, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. She has completed several projects at the regional and national level to support the development of cultural and creative industries based on research and stakeholder consultations. These include policy and strategy recommendations, articulation of a template for regional classification and certification of cultural practitioners to facilitate global mobility, training of artisans and entrepreneurs through workshops, and a 5-year strategic plan for the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts to expand its regional footprint. Lisa is also an industrial designer, trained to the postgraduate Master of Arts level. She's working on the launch of e-commerce product line that reflect her passion for the craftsmanship expressed in ceramics, textiles, metal and paper objects. Please send up those emojis, open your microphones, whatever you choose, and help me welcome Miss Lisa Callender.
Yes, Lisa. Wow. Wow. Good job. And for our viewers, we are now live on Facebook and Instagram. Welcome, Lisa. YouTube.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and good afternoon. Thank you, Leighton, for that lovely introduction. Good afternoon to everyone, distinguished panelists, as well as distinguished guests. Good afternoon and welcome. Always a pleasure to be here at Edna Manley College for the Visual and Performing Arts. So I'd like to begin by congratulating Keneal and his team for conceptualizing, coordinating, and bringing together this event. It's so interesting to participate in the manifestation of many, many months of dialogue behind the scenes. And so impressed am I with your vision, your drive, execution, and organization that I'll be looking as students at the student level, that I'll be looking for opportunities for us to partner on more commercial ventures. And I would also highly recommend you to others. So congratulations for bringing this together. Some months ago, I was asked to speak with Keneal in connection with his interest in cultural policy. I've been involved at the policy and strategy level with several initiatives across the Caribbean to support the growth and development of cultural industries. These include support to the drafting of a regional strategy for cultural industries development across CARICOM, and the facilitation of the Edna Manley College for the Visual and Performing Arts Strategic Plan 2015 to 2020, which aimed to position the college for a greater contribution to regional development and expansion of its regional footprint. And educational policy research across CARICOM in 2011 actually revealed that the Edna Manley College was the only tertiary institution in the English-speaking Caribbean which integrates professional training and teacher training in the visual and performing arts. Today, I wish to share some thoughts on the opportunities I see that are informed by my unique perspective for dance professionals to thrive in a post-pandemic world. In my opinion, despite the challenges we are facing as a result of the extended presence of the pandemic, I feel extremely hopeful about the future. Having had the opportunity to witness evolution in approaches to cultural industries management over the past decade. To give just a few examples, way back in 2011, stakeholders participated in the regional strategy development process, expressed concerns about the inadequacy of resources to develop and promote talent within the region in a way that enriched economies and provided employment locally within the region. Today, we have the pleasure of participating in an event put together by cultural management professionals right here in this region, led by a Vincentian student living in a CSME, Jamaica. In 2013, when my curiosity led me to insert myself into an international summer school on cultural economics in the Netherlands, exploring the relationship between economics, culture, and the arts, I found a high-level, somewhat Eurocentric, global think tank of academia, policy researchers, and professionals incubated by the very prestigious Erasmus University. At the time, I thought that a similar high-level forum for dialogue here in the Caribbean could bear some interesting fruit. Today, we are engaged in such a forum, originating within the region to generate dialogue towards solutions. In 2015, when we wrote the strategic plan for the Edna Manley College, we spoke of the need to establish virtual and physical incubators within this college for students in their final years to have hands-on practice and mentorship in cultural entrepreneurship. Today, we see where one such youth-led entrepreneurial venture, the Star Agency, has stamped their presence on the landscape in a memorable manner. We know that in the Caribbean, if just one person jumps the hurdles to head for the ever-changing finish line of success, many others will soon follow. So where do I see the opportunities for dance professionals in a post-pandemic world? As a strategist, I could probably find at least 20. But in the interest of time, I'll share my top 3. Firstly, in creating and leading policies and programs that exploit synergies between culture, arts, and education. This pandemic has created challenges with the sudden confinement of homebound students to virtual classrooms, and some rural students struggling to access devices and bandwidth. Late-stage teenagers may be missing out on some of the best years of peer engagement and social experimentation towards becoming who they are meant to be. Now is the time for the summer camps, the after-school care sessions, youth camps, culture clubs, and weekend boot camps to deliver training in the arts in an engaging, interactive, and creative manner. These workshops could be delivered virtually and/or in person with social distancing protocols in place. Now is the time to encourage pedagogy and curriculum based on dramatization, self-expression, imagination, and cultural awareness, which can lead students to greater self-confidence and self-realization. These workshops should be funded by corporate sponsors and other donors and made widely accessible through libraries and cultural centers at no or low cost to participants. They should be led by tertiary trained teams of specialists in the arts. This will ensure even access across the society on a non-discriminatory basis to youth of all social classes and address one of the main barriers to the early stage development of artistic excellence, that training in the arts is typically available only on an extracurricular, paid basis to a privileged few. Secondly, use of the arts and arts education in community-based peace building, mediation, conflict resolution, and violence prevention. As an ugly corollary to the pandemic, lockdowns, there appears to have been an increase in violence on a domestic level and challenges to public order and discipline. Involvement in the arts has the potential to engender discipline and teamwork while enhancing well-being, academic performance, and social cohesion. Community-based programs designed, developed, and led by tertiary trained specialists in the arts and culture could be a lever for coping with the anxiety and the frustration which may be deepened in the pandemic. Now is the time to channel the experience of trained facilitators in supporting communities to heal themselves. I have already shared with Camille and his team a call for proposals that was recently issued by a major international development partner, that is what we call a donor, to ideate programs to build community resilience and reduce youth involvement in crime and violence. I can see no better fit for this situation than a pilot project to engage targeted groups in training, performance, and entrepreneurial ventures centered on the arts and culture. Thirdly, seeking opportunities to cross-fertilize art forms with a view to creating something new. While the pandemic has us all spending more time with screens and in the crowded universe of information, it is increasingly important for creators to differentiate themselves by offering audiences something new and distinctive. There are unlimited opportunities for the fusion of music and dance, dance and fashion, dance and film, dance and animation, dance and photography, and the staging of performances in new locations and environments. The tertiary trained individual has the competitive advantage of knowing how to generate concepts from briefs, to refine these ideas through research, and to optimize presentations for delivery to varying audiences and formats. Now is the time to pull from that deep well of cultural experiences to generate distinctiveness and novelty. I really hope that these brief remarks have provided useful food for thought on some post-pandemic opportunities for dance professionals. I will end by exhorting the team, as my late father always exhorted me, to make it happen. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Lisa. So viewers, I know you guys probably have some questions for Lisa, but we're going to ask you to post those questions in the chat on the different platforms, and then we will take those questions at the end of the second speaker. Okay, so our second speaker that's coming up is Mr. Mikhail Morris. Born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica, Mikhail is an international Jamaican cultural ambassador, cultural business consultant, lecturer on the history and culture of Jamaican dancehall at Simone Fraser University, educator and an international professional dancer and choreographer. In 2017, he created and led the first dancehall history and fundamentals at the university curriculum and a three-month course in North America at Simone Fraser University. And this is in Canada. Currently, Mikhail is based in Vancouver, British Columbia, and he's a co-owner/director for the company Catch the Vibes Production company as the artistic director to connect and educate individuals and communities on the cultures of Jamaica and the African diaspora through education, history, and dance. Since he started in 2015, Mikhail has been educating and creating safe spaces for other artists of African descent to educate on their cultures and history in Vancouver. And is he a graduate of the School of Dance in the Manly College? Yes, he is. Welcome, Mikhail. Nice to see you.
What's up? Hello. Hey everyone. Thanks for that intro, Kelly. Thanks, Kenil Brody, for this opportunity to put on this magnificent, wonderful, talk or webinars. Thanks for all the other speakers to contribute their time. So I'm going to come from a different space in terms of when it comes to opportunities. And I think this is a conversation that a lot of students, young practitioners, and youth, especially that want to pursue a dance opportunity or want to pursue anything in the art form internationally, locally, or globally. Right. So I'm just going to come from a personal space and just speak from the heart because I feel as if, like, based on experience and based on that, that would actually give people a collective of data of information so that they can use it or just try to see how it is possible based on my experience. And yes, I'm also a postgraduate of the Manley College, and I just want to share my story so that you see the possibilities, right? You see the possibilities of how you can go further than just become a dancer. So in Jamaica, I started in dancehall dance, right? So I started in street styles of dancehall, and then I entered this competition called Dancing Dynamite, and where I placed second in the competition, and I was awarded a scholarship by one of my mentor, a dear friend of mine, Marlon Sims, that gave me a 2-year scholarship to enter to go to the Edinburgh College to study. So in that time, I went, and mind you, I never understand any form of classical dance or any form of any history of traditional folk dances because I was just doing dancehall. So going to Edna Manley really gave me an eye opener in terms of on how to pursue dance and how to see dance through the language of art, right? So I went study, and then I got an opportunity which Marlon Sims also helped me to really do my audition, and I get an opportunity to go to Canada to become a professional dancer. But in that process and in that time of me training, I was only focusing on dance. So the point of me thinking about business or a business owner didn't came to mind because I came to focus more on the styles of and learning more of my culture and the foundation and how to be grounded and speak the language of art. So when I went to Canada, where I've been now for 11 years, internationally, my entire perspective of the art form really changed. So I started to work with other companies, professional companies, where that was my professional job, and then branching off to teaching, right, where all the other mentors kind of give me a more of an idea of what that looks like in an international space. So from becoming a professional dancer, I started to wanted to become much more than just dance, right? Because a mentor of mine said, so when you don't have dance, what next? When you get older, what next? And that really stick to me because I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted to really create a space for other practitioners or other dancers or any entertainers who really see their dream and want to pursue. So I take that responsibility on and really pursue my goal. So through dance has allowed me to go to conferences. So I start to see other directors and other practitioners work in the field that I was in. I was curious. I wanted to know the language, not of dance, but of business in dance, which is a lot more different. So going in, learning, started to teach, and then from teaching, I've realized that there was much more. And keep in mind, I'm a person that always want to think out of the box. But before I go further, I remember, and I was going to bringing it back now. I remember saying this to Marlon Sims, and I said, can dancehall become, and I want you to hold this, because I want you to hold this question dearly. And I asked him, I remember in the studio in my second year, and I said, can dancehall become certified or a curriculum? And I remember dearly that he said to me, he said, it is possible. However, keep in mind that dancehall culture is a lifestyle which the culture really evolves. So if you're going to create a curriculum, you have to think about history, foundation, structure. And it stuck with me because that inspiration, I got that information and inspiration from learning the different modern dance, Catherine Dunham, Martha Graham, and realize how they structured that old pedagogy and understanding of what that looks like. So I wanted to create a style. I wanted to create something out of that, but I didn't know what yet. So moving forward, me being in Canada, now getting an opportunity as get an opportunity to travel from Toronto, because I was living in Toronto for 6 years, moved from Toronto and now living in the West Coast, a place in Vancouver, where I got an opportunity not just to lecture, but first to produce my own dancehall theater show, right? Based on my experience, I wanted to do something. So what I did was take all my knowledge and ask questions on how to go about that, right? So the first thing that I do was created a dancehall theater. Maybe some of you may wonder, what is a dancehall theater? Now, my concept of a dancehall theater is telling a story. Now, telling a story using the ideology as a language of movement, not just dancehall steps, but the whole structure of what can identify that really creates a communicator for dancehall people or for Jamaican people to see what that looks like, right? So fast forward, then I got an opportunity to really, based on the question that I asked Marlon Sims, that, hey, this is going to be something that I really want to do. So I went to the school, and then I got an opportunity to lecture and create a first 2-credit course so that students can understand the history, the foundation of dancehall and of Jamaican culture through dancehall culture. So, in a nutshell, the point that I'm trying to make is that there is opportunities. Yes, I know that we're living in a time where COVID and the old pandemic, and there's kind of a lot of restriction. But in that struggle of finding different ways, we have to, one key thing, this stereotype that really branded into the art industry as starving artists. This is something that we have to demolish because it's really take on the heavy burden on us as artists, and we stuck in a very capitalist mindset that we are not able to think out of the box. There's many ways, and as you hear in my bio, a cultural consultant, right? There's many ways through dance that you can find your niche, to find different opportunities, because the more I start to learn, the more knowledge that I gain, right? In this time that we're thinking about, yes, the when you look at the obvious, there's not a lot of opportunities, but we're not only talking about just what is happening right now, but collectively in the art form. Now, what happened 5 years from now? What happened the next 10 years from now, right? We have to adjust. And as the topic, trends and new approaches to the marketplace, I really believe in trends, especially in this weird time is going. And we have to understand what that looks like. What does trend look in a context of dance? And how does that move forward, right? We have to start think out of the box a lot, because it's really important to find different ways. I mean, yes, we can always, some of us really want to just pursue dance, but we have to also see that there's much more possibilities out of that if we think out of the box, right? So these information and insights based on my experience, one is consistency, right? Two is creating a resource page. Now, what I've realized in my experience, I was able to create a resource page that goes, what do I want to achieve? Who can give me the opportunity to achieve these goals? And from there, you can see the steps that you make to pursue that, right? So I am just speaking out of the goodness of my heart. And if you have any question, I can elaborate more in based on what I've seen in the box. So thank you again for this amazing opportunity. And I really appreciate this platform so that I can share my experience. Take care, be safe, bless.
Mikhail, thank you for joining us, and thank you for, what should I say, keeping Jamaica and the Jamaican culture alive and well over there in Vancouver. So they're getting that raw, natural Jamaicanness from Mikhail, because he was, Jamaican, right? Born and grown here. So, Lisa, I think I have a question here for you, and it says, how can dancers use community innovation and social enterprises to further advance their art form?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I think today we're talking about viability, and I think we have to recognize that viability, as Michael was talking about, it's not just commercial viability. We have to think about cultural viability as well. So how do we preserve and transmit culture for future generations? And so dancers, just like other creative professionals, have to redefine themselves as ideators and see themselves as critical and important, their points of view, critical and important to the manifestation of, firstly, cultural viability, and then to explore economic viability. And I was sharing with Camille earlier that my own company is a private company, but there are other business models, for example, NGO formats, where you can attract funding from donors. It's very difficult for donors or development partners to seed funding into a private company. But it's a little bit different if you have an NGO which has those types of objectives. And thirdly, I would say dancers as ideators, persons who are skilled and trained. I keep batting for trained at the tertiary level, because I think in order to lead, you have to have very deep skills. You have to know what you're doing first before you try to lead others. And so I think participatory engagement in communities led by persons who are trained, but seeding ideas to those at many levels, people who aren't trained, because again, I spoke about the cross-fertilization.
Right.
So seeing yourself as an ideator and as a talent, we're living in a world of intellectual property, so persons who own talent and have knowledge and have skills are positioned to do just about anything. We don't know when the next success is going to come from. So social enterprises is one of several business model options that are available to creative practitioners.
But then again, you know, you have persons, like you say, you have persons who are not trained. They don't attend Edna College, so they don't have the tertiary level training, but they're naturally talented, whether they are musicians, whether they are vocalists, visual artists, dancers, actors, and so on. And they might be living in some areas that they are stigmatized, maybe. A stigma is attached to, oh, you're studying dance, or oh, you like dance, or oh, you're not going to make it as a musician or whatever. What do you say to those persons? Because then they're stuck in, okay, it's not one with nothing, let me try something else. When really and truly the passion is they want to do something in the arts. Oh, mommy and daddy not say, oh, that's not going to make no money. Because yes, you do, people be like, no, no, people will say that to students. Because as a high school teacher, I had, and this is just 2 seconds, I had a student about 2 years ago who, he came to me in grade 10 and his mom, and he was like, oh, miss, I want to do theater arts dance, my passion is to go to Edna, and so I said, oh yeah, let's do this. And then for 2 weeks, I didn't see him. And I was like, so what happened? His mother said, oh, I'm supposed to go do something in culinary arts, which is all well and good because I think it falls under the same umbrella. Yeah. But I was like, okay. So his mother's idea is, oh, go and do foods and then go get a job on a ship. And really and truly, he looks at me and he says, miss, if I'm not dancing, it's like, I can't breathe. And for that, I was like, okay. Like, it just touched me. I was like, okay, I'm going to do. And he didn't even do theater arts. Yeah. He went and he did foods. I mean, he passed and everything. I was like, even though you did foods, I'm going to ensure that you get to Edna. And I think he's second year? Second year.
Yeah, so I've met some persons like that. I mean, I agree. I think in the society we still see persons who choose to pursue the arts as less intellectually capable than others. And we still see persons who live in particular areas as somewhat disadvantaged. To my mind, creativity is a level playing field. One of the best things about in investing in the culture and the creative economy is we don't know who will be the next star.
Yeah.
It could be a 10-year-old sitting in their living room now, watching this somewhere out there in the world. And so we don't know who will be the next star. But to those persons who are in those situations, I would suggest to them to organize themselves and to look to collaboration. If you know that you are not strong enough and you don't have all the resources, you have to find some other persons who you can collaborate with and join with. And one of the best things about today is that I find a young man has come out with a bold vision to form an agency and organize other persons, other like-minded youth with him. This is a very interesting and important case study. For us to try to move forward. And as to whether Star Agency is a private company or an NGO, doesn't matter. It represents a form of organization, a vehicle where you can move forward.
Take that step.
Yeah, because again, it's easier to get support moving as a group or collaborating than going on your own.
If you don't have the funding.
And especially if you don't have the resources.
Right. Okay. So, Leighton, my other moderator, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, Kelly.
Have any question for Lisa?
No, I don't at this moment. I don't have a question now.
Okay. Do we have any questions coming in on Instagram or Facebook? Okay. Comments. So for those of us who are still here on the platform, the different platforms, join us on YouTube and Facebook Live in 3 minutes. Mikhail, I have a question there for you though, Mikhail. Are you still here?
I'm here.
Okay, so Mikhail, so you said you were in Canada first, Ontario, I think you said, and right. So when you got there though, was it like a culture shock for you, like persons just kind of, oh, you were from Jamaica, teach me some dance, or what was it like for you when you just got into the space, seeing that as a dancer? What was it like for you? Coming with something different.
Yeah, and that's a good question, because when we're talking about Vancouver and the demographic, it's more Indians, Asians, and the population for Black people here is 2%. Right? So when you look, yes. And it's something where when you look at me as a Jamaican and coming from a place where there is the African diaspora and Black people surround you, it really feels foreign. But based on that feeling foreign, it kind of give me the edge to really share my culture more than focus more only on teaching, right? Because then now I create what I call cycle of entertainment. Now, what the cycle of entertainment is not just focusing on teaching or performing or being in music video, is to control and create a platform where people can be educated through classes, through events, through workshops, flying in other practitioners to do the work, and through lecturing. So, coming from Toronto to Vancouver, I started doing workshops first, and I was going back and forth. I was doing dancehall workshops, and I was going back and forth. And I said, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to make that sacrifice, to go into a space that they'll have a lot of culture from Jamaican culture, to understand the roots of it. So it was a smart move for me and transition for me to really come in and create that opportunity.
Okay, then thank you so much, Mikhail. So, Leighton, I think you are going to do the introduction of our third speaker.
Yes, Kelly, but I just wanted to mention the inspirational story from Mikhail. So we can see the possibilities are endless for dancers, and just how one opportunity can lead to several other doors being opened. Look at the one opportunity that he took advantage of and where he is today. I mean, Mikhail is living testimony and truly an inspiration to dance and others who might be interested in venturing in that field.
There's a question in the chat.
Our next presenter is Miss Brittany Williams. And Miss Brittany Williams is an international dancer, choreographer, and organizer, originally from Homestead, Florida. Brittany was a 2017 Dancing While Black Fellow and an artist in residence at the Restoration Plaza in Brooklyn, New York. She's a 2016 Jacobs Pillar Scholarship recipient for the program Dance and Improv Traditions, a principal dancer with Olujumi Dance, the founder of Dancing for Justice and Abika Dance projects. Brittany has worked with Jamil, Oluwale Kosoko, Yon Tande, Makeda Thomas, Chris Walker, Michelle Grant Murray, Urban Bush Women, Forces of Nature, and much more. She's the co-founder of Woodshed Dance online platform and collaborator with Get This War Dance Collective. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the dynamic Miss Brittany Williams.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invite. I think this conversation is critical, not only to Jamaica, but transnationally, internationally, as we are thinking about what our role as artists could be, should be post-pandemic. A little bit about me. I started in hip hop. I never thought I would be a dancer in my life. I'm from Miami, Florida. Homestead is a high where there's lots of violence in my community. And I was in the streets growing up, really, really in the streets. And so the way I entered dance and movement, I've always danced. I've always danced in my community. I always danced with my family. And so how I'm going to present what I'm going to present when we're talking about post-pandemic, where we see the role of dancers and choreographers in the world. I'm going to talk about dance and just say dance is movement. And without movement, who are we? Right. And so I had to take this moment. I had to take lots of years to decolonize how I see myself as a dancer in the world, and realize that I'm always dancing, I'm always in motion, and I'm always moving. And so I think that fluidity has allowed me to transition into many different careers and wear many different hats. And I think that as young artists who are interested in finding ways to be entrepreneurs, to be consultants, to be facilitators, is has a lot to do with dance is beyond the technique. It is a lifestyle. It is right. Specifically post-modernity. We're still I'm a Black woman in America, and in Miami, you know, my family is Bahamian, but how I move about in this world has played a huge role in how I see dancing. So I just wanted to say a couple of things. We're still in a pandemic, and I think if we're talking about roles that artists can play, is, hey, how are we going to think about movement when we're supposed to be socially distancing, right? I think there's a lot of opportunities for artists, choreographers, specifically choreographers who are trained to see movement, to move people from different locations, and use their strategy, which is their choreographic tools, to actually strategically plan how and where social distancing can work, how you move people through space. And also too, I think, so post this pandemic, because we have been so isolated, I think that choreographers and dancers can play a huge role in entering back into society, and connecting people once this social distancing is lifted. And I think we have an opportunity now to plan now in advance. So the question that I have is, what role does dance, choreography, and movement play in transforming a nation when we have been through so much death and mourning and isolation? I think there is a lot of resources that we take for granted when we are saying we're going to take a ballet bar and we're studying a different language outside of our embodied practices that we may see on the street. And so I took a bit of notes so I can stay on track, y'all. But I think like we have embodied so much during this pandemic, and that embodiment that we have embodied should be explored through movement and dance. And there's an opportunity there for choreographers and dancers to be hired by the government, to be hired by NGOs, to actually think about the outcomes that is expected, or is the goals that is expected post-pandemic. Artists, we study movement, we study people, we study entrance and exits. And like the biggest blessing that I've had was actually taking these skills to actually transform them into other entrepreneurship goals, helping other people get their businesses started. And so I think like in the US, for example, I was working on bail reform and supporting bail reform, and supporting people who are incarcerated. Using choreographic tools, I was able to map out, protests, and also help with policy changes, right? So just thinking about ways in which the information that we're given in dance can translate over into other genres, other ventures, outside of the dance world. I've performed in many different places, and I think like the biggest thing is dancers. There's no social justice movement without dance. There is no movement without in this world without dancing and being in motion. Woodshed Dance is an online digital platform. Right now, what the pandemic has done has carved out a space for dancers and choreographers to really take ownership of who they are and what they want to be in this world. And so thinking about how to use the digital world, not only just creating a website, but YouTube, TikTok, is so many ways that you can create a brand and make money. There's so many ways that you can create. And so as a dancer, I will end with this, two things. As a dancer, it is great that you know your talent and your worth, but it's also a deeper understanding to know that you are creative. And that creativity should have always been our birthright. And to make that commitment to dance, to choreography, or whatever you're doing, you're going to fail. But what do you learn from that failure? And don't be afraid to do something or start it. Even if you fail, there's also another way, another turnaround, right? Right now, I'm supporting Rennie Harris University, which is the first online in-person hip hop university in the world, right? And so it was an idea, and we just carved through it and just start working and working and working and working, and it just came into fruition a couple of weeks ago. So if you have an idea, go with it. Find your people, ask questions, and stay curious.
I have a question here for you, Brittany. Oh.
No, go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead.
All right. So, Brittany, with the development of smart cities, how do you think dancers can engage with technology to promote themselves in the 21st century?
Yes, so I think dancers can create a website, YouTube, Instagram. The goal of any branding is being consistent, and also like figuring out before everyone has an Instagram and Facebook. I don't believe that, but I'm just saying that. What do you want to achieve? Being very, very clear on what you want to achieve with these platforms, and maybe doing a backwards design. You can Google the backwards design, figuring out what you want as a goal, how you name 3 things of how you're going to achieve it. If that doesn't work, keep trying something different. That's my short answer.
Yeah, thanks.
But Lisa, I have a question here for you again. And I might get into trouble for this one, but we're gonna ask it anyway. The Caribbean is affected by opinions that see the creative arts as a plague. It's useless. And these are some of the same ones who will want you to come and do a show for them. But anyway, that's right. So it's a plague in the education system. How can we reform the mindset of the educators themselves, who also are enemies of the arts? Because, like I said, I might get into trouble for this one, but it's okay. I will have teachers who are at my high school that will say to students, do not do dance, or do not do music, or visual arts, or drama. Because in their mind, it's foolishness. You just go ahead and just jump up and down and just say 2 words and that's it. How do we reform the mindset of those educators?
Okay, I hope we don't both get into trouble. All right, so listen, I think it's a great question, and I fully understand it in the sense that in my childhood, which is a longer time ago than I care to mention, I was discouraged from pursuing the arts. My parents were very concerned about having some sort of stability in terms of a career, so I understand that very intimately. At the same time, having been involved with governments in terms of shaping policies and strategies, I must say that that is not my personal experience. I have seen more recently where cultural and creative industries have become a kind of buzzword internationally, and governments are really seeking to mine that potential and engage. They're really seeking to move into policy certain prescriptions to manage creativity and to support creative individuals. So I've seen a big shift from, let's say, 50 years ago when I was a little girl. Having said that, it's clear that there is some kind of disconnect. And that disconnect is addressed when you shape things through stakeholder participation, but you also cast it in policy. Without policy, without success stories of individuals such as Mr. Broody, who have gone out there, done the hard work. I mean, this event is months in the making. I can say it's been months of WhatsApp, and I'm sure it's all around the world, these WhatsApps are going. So that perception is changed when you have individuals who are really, really willing and able to step out and create a bold vision and take the risk of being laughed at, take the risk of being ridiculed. It's very difficult to be an entrepreneur in this region. You always have people talking behind you about who you think you are and what are you doing showing up in a dance symposium, rather than trying to see where the connect is. But even so, you still have to push past it. You still have to, first, you have to settle your mindset. So before you go out there trying to convince an educator or trying to convince a government policymaker, you have to settle your mindset and be clear about who you are, and be clear that you will take your craft seriously. You will work on honing your craft, and you will show up even when you don't know what's coming. And yeah, and it does take a lot of courage, because it is a risk. You do face a lot of pushback. I was talking to a colleague here earlier, and we were saying, no, bad mind is always very active. But you have to have that vision of yourself. And I heard Brittany say, you have to actually have objectives. If you are adrift in a sea of information and a sea of people, it's going to be very difficult for you to stand out. It's going to be very difficult for you to stay the course. So you have to have your objectives that are guiding you no matter how hard the winds blow. Okay. But I do acknowledge the question, and I do understand where that person is coming from, but I do think, hold on, I think it's changing. I think coming out of this pandemic, so one of the things, there was a time before when the world went into a major financial decline. I think it was it 2018 or 2009, one of those years. There was a major problem with financial systems globally. Okay. And one of the things that was found is that cultural and creative industries were more resilient. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case coming out of this pandemic, because people have not been allowed to perform. Right. And yes, you can set up a website, you can go into the digital space, but it's actually crowded. We're all tired of Zoom meetings and YouTube, and some of us are having problems with our eyes and so on. So I don't think it's going to be the case coming out of this pandemic. But what will be important is for that disconnect to be addressed. And I think the way it can be addressed is for creators to come together like this, create advocacy. There is a vacuum in the Caribbean in advocacy mechanisms. Okay. So it's either government over here, private sector over there, but the in-between, who and what will advocate for the creative sector, who or what will come forward, where is the organization, the body that will speak on behalf of creators, based on the intimate knowledge of their needs, based on knowing how difficult it is to be a creator in the region. So I think even in there, we have to shift the mindset. It's very difficult to be positive, but we also have to come out positive. And play our role in advocating and in standing behind others and supporting this idea.
And be true to ourselves.
Yes, if we really believe in it and if we are sure about ourselves.
Right. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, well said. Pleasure. So I am going to introduce our Yes, we're going so fast. Oh, I'm so sorry. Our fourth presenter this afternoon, and it's Mr. Alf Daniel Mambingo. He is a Ugandan dance researcher, scholar, performer, educator, Afro-optimist, and co-founder of Africa Speaks. Born and raised in his ancestral village on the shores of Lake Victoria in central Uganda, East Africa. Mambingo holds a PhD in dance studies from the University of Auckland, a recipient of the prestigious Fulbright Scholarship. Mambingo also holds a MA in dance education from New York University and an MA in performing arts and a BA in dance degree, both from Makerere University in Uganda. He has taught dance courses at Makerere University in Uganda, New York University in the US, and the University of Auckland in New Zealand, and of course, the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts right here in Kingston, Jamaica. His research sits at the intersection of decolonization, interculturalism, post-colonialism, dance pedagogy, and African philosophy. Mr. Mambingo, are you here with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Mambingo, nice to see you.
Nice.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Over to you, Mambingo.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Layton, for holding this space. And to Kanil, thank you for bringing us together. And my fellow panelists, your generosity is much appreciated. To our audience out there, we love you, and we are so glad to have you here. This is so important, a conversation to have right about now, because all industries are going through massive transformation. And so I think it's a very good way of getting us, started as dancers, as creatives. And it's a good way of challenging us to imagine what the future will be and how we can position ourselves to make the best of that future. I'll briefly just talk about myself. I've been introduced. I was born in my village. I was really wanted to become a Catholic priest. When I was young, that didn't happen. I ended up in dance, and I've been really growing my career as a dance educator, moving across different continents and doing research and teaching. And here we are. So the topic or the theme of repositioning dance education as a career path that was allocated to me is something that I'm passionate about. And it's something for which I've accumulated some experience and insights to share with people who are aspiring to build careers in dance. In my kind of professorial way, I presented 2 slides that I want to share with you, and then I'll go off those slides. I don't know whether I can share, whether you can give me some rights to share here. Maybe, yeah, it's here. Let's go. Yeah, so I kind of created this title of how can we prepare a 21st century dance practitioner as dance educators, all people within the field of dance education. And this is so important for us because there are key issues that dance educators and dance education institutions need to consider if they are to prepare someone who is competitive and someone who meets the needs of the 21st century, society. One of the things that I think dance education needs to consider in the process of repositioning is to deepen an understanding of the world in which dancers live. Academia sometimes is so detached from what is going on out there. And so what happens is that we get caught in this dilemma of producing graduates that really don't know the world out there, the world in which they live. And I think for us to achieve this as educators, we need to work towards closing the gap between scholarship, communities, and dance practice. And I think the last question really spoke to that challenge of that gap that exists between those different strands that form our industries. Number two is for dance education to rethink how the teachers can support the dance students to discover and nurture who they are and what they want to be, instead of what the institution thinks that it wants those graduates to be. So we need to move towards student-oriented teaching and learning. Number three, the other issue to consider is to constantly revise curriculum and pedagogy to respond to conditions and contexts in which that pedagogy is applied. And that speaks to the conditions that exist or that prevail within what we call the marketplace. And by doing so, we'll be equipping students with skills, insights, experiences, and knowledge that will make them relevant to society. The last thing which I think is very important in the process of repositioning is to allow students to have more practical experiences in the communities through fieldwork, based teaching and learning. Send students out there. Let them go and interact with communities and learn and be challenged and be guided, but most importantly, understand the conditions and the opportunities that exist out there, the problems that exist out there, and identify solutions to those challenges and problems. So in all this, as I really cruise down to my conclusion. So what should a dance practitioner do to increase their competitiveness? What should a student know or walk away with from academia so that they are competitive? And all these issues also speak to dance practitioners. You don't need to be a really student. So I want to engrave this within the wider spectrum of dance practice. Number one, I think from my experience, is to embrace transdisciplinarity. We need to understand that dance functions in relation to other fields in the sector, be it tourism, be it health, be it sports, be it the economy. The list is endless and the world is moving towards transdisciplinarity. So as dancers and as practitioners, we need to package ourselves in such a way that we can tap into those opportunities that exist in other fields, and at the same time, make our field more attractive for those people in other fields to come and work with us. And that requires us to hone our skills of collaboration. Innovation and creativity in the 21st century flourishes in an environment and with a spirit that values collaboration. How do we engage in collaboration and not just cooperation or partnerships? How can we competently engage in meaningful collaboration? We need to own those skills. Collaboration is a skill that is grown over a period of time. We need to reinvent the self in relation to the trends, developments, and conditions in the local and global economy. So the idea of being static and then you have skills and you were trained these days may not work. So we need to learn how to adapt and how to reinvent our skills, our capabilities, our identities to be able to cope up with the ever-changing environments and conditions in the world in which we work. A dancer needs to develop multi skills to build holistic abilities to maneuver through the industry. What this COVID has taught me is I didn't really do enough of that. So when things moved online, I didn't even know some technologies. And I had to go through about 3 months of really unlearning and learning. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I had learned how to edit my stuff. I wouldn't really be stuck with, I wish I had learned how to, use the phone to record my stuff. And so these are math skills that we need in order to be able to cope up with the trends. Value the different strands that make dance what it is: artistry, research, scholarship, policy. So dance exists because there are so many strands that inform dance. You can't be everything, but having knowledge that these strands exist sometimes is very important, because that's what really pushes you to collaborate. That's what pushes you to ask questions about the industry more broadly, and these questions are important. Formulate and aggressively pursue a career dream, vision, and mission in dance. What is my niche? What is my niche? What is that thing that makes me different? And how can I hone it? You have answers as an individual. And if you don't have answers, you can find them. But the most important thing is for you to identify the niche and push it aggressively. And I've really gone through this experience as a dance educator. And I realized that I want to be an educator. I want to be a researcher and a scholar. For the last 12 years, I've been really kicking that hard. And I am a true testimony to the idea of having a niche. Appreciate empirical research as a drive of innovation and creativity. We talked about technology and then the smart cities. The world is going to be data driven. Big data is going to become the thing. How many followers do I have on YouTube? How do I use them? How do I really map out that data so that I innovate my products, so that I innovate myself as a practitioner to be able to meet those trends, but at the same time, use that data to grow my industry, to grow my profession, etc. And lastly, is to also be part of dance and make dance a knowledge-based a knowledge-based economy, and make it interact with other knowledge-based economies. The world has reduced us to just dancers who go on stage and move, and they think beyond that we can't do much. But there is a lot of knowledge, and there is a lot of products and projects and programs that we can develop around that kind of knowledge base, which fits into the big data idea that I talked about, and of course, all the ideas that have come before. But I think we also need to look at that direction to see how we can contribute to knowledge-based economies, and that will really increase our value. Of course, you can't do everything that I've listed here, so I'm not really sending, aspiring dancers out there to try out everything. I'm just presenting a buffet. And so from this buffet, and this is not the only buffet, you can go and then pick, get inspired by 1, 2, and you can even add on this list. So this list is really not exhausted. You can add more to the buffet. I just wanted to share with you what I think lies in my kitchen so that we can all get fed and
Nice
see.
Dr. Mambingo, I have a quick question here for you. How can dance educators reorganize or redesign their methodology of teaching to facilitate effective learning beyond the walls of the studio space or the classroom space?
Thank you very much. That is a very good question. I think the starting point is the dance educator. Before we even look at their pedagogy or their teaching methodologies and the content that they package in the curriculum. So if the dance educator is locked up inside the walls of the academy, that is the dance educator that will not change much. Even if you really take them to planet Mars and you ask them to reinvent their pedagogy, that they know only one world and the experience is just restricted to those worlds. They won't do much. So I think the dance educator, in order to get to that point, they also need to go out there and interact with the communities and practices within the field, be in the world. I asked, we had a meeting at my university in Uganda. I'll give you this example. And I asked my colleagues, of all of us, if we were to lose these jobs of teaching at this university, how many of us can survive out there in the industry? If we are to leave uni, professorship, etc. Well, I didn't really get good numbers. And I told them, if you cannot imagine yourself succeeding in the industry, that raises questions about the kind of knowledge that you give to students that you send in the same industry.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's about, first and foremost, you have to be out there. Community engagement with the practice should be part of the new academy of the 21st century. And from there, you can figure out what are the needs, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, how do I package my graduates to be able to meet those needs? And that means, how do I shift my curriculum? How do I shift my pedagogy so that it responds to those kinds of insights, ideas, experiences that I myself practically live and experience in the industry.
Thank you, Dr. Mambingo. Well said. So at this time, Leighton, are you with us? So I want you to join me in thanking Lisa for stopping by. It's always a pleasure. As she said, she always likes to come back to it. Of course, it's the heart. And thank you to Dr. Mambingo, Mikhail, and Brittany. Some very interesting ideas and topics and thought-provoking, what should I say, conversation, right? So we're all here, we're going to leave here with something to think about. Okay, let me see. I got this from Mambinga. Lisa said this. Let me see how I can put it into what I'm doing now and see what the difference we can make in wherever we are in the world, whichever school we're at, and let's just step into our greatness. That's going to be my thing today. Step into your greatness. Thank you, Lisa, and be safe. And I'm just going to welcome, or should I invite, right here beside me, the man of the hour, Mr. Brody. Mr. Brody, I'm telling you, he might get us into trouble, but it's okay. It's okay. Welcome, Brody, and he's going to give the vote of thanks.
All right, thank you, Ms. Barrett. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leighton. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. I wish to acknowledge the examiners, my course lecturer, Ms. Janice Gore, Director of Studies, Dr. Anthea Optal, lecturers at the School of Arts Management and Humanities, and my project management team for working with me to present such an exuberant initiative and assisting me to ensure that my vision comes to fruition. Much thanks for trusting me with the execution of such an event. I am honored to have been the convener at this webinar, The Viability of Dance, Size, Approaches, and Opportunities. It is a remarkable moment in my journey here at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, and I look forward to hosting many more events of this nature in the future. I would like to thank all those who made this event possible. To our speakers, thank you for sharing your vast wealth of knowledge with us. We are grateful for your time and the input made during this conversation. It is our fervent hope that these inputs made will help to shape and propel stimulation and to change the mindset of dance practitioners and facilitate youth engagement towards the development of dance and by extension, national development. The interpreters, thank you, thank you, thank you. To our viewers and participants, thank you all for your input, all the inputs made, and time taken off from your busy schedule to join us and support the action of Star Agency. A heartfelt thank you goes out to our sponsors for the contribution to the success of this event, and the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, Multimedia and Assets and Facilities Department for ensuring that this event was made possible and visible to our attendees. Together, we have commenced the bridge towards success across generations. Star Agency will be the hub of ideas, innovation, influencers, interpreters, investors, and implementers to find practical solutions to challenges faced by young practitioners. Star Agency, building connections, working together to create opportunities. Remember to follow our social media handles, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let us come together and continue this fruitful discussion. Good afternoon.
So they use them a plan. Say a time to remove the lies. Them a got me a dinner, but I'm up to the thing better. Said the word already, I've been a stepper. Show them a different way to start checker. Oh, Jaja, when the fuck to discover Rasta. Oh, Jaja, tell them so steady for the chat now. Oh, Jaja, when the fuck to discover Rasta. Oh, Jaja, tell them to be ready for the chat now. Cause a king man thing, you have to live while the king man live. Man, I tell you say a king man thing, you have to listen when the king man sing. King man thing, you have to live while the king man live. Say a king man thing, you have to listen when the king man sing. One general, one dad. The eye is in as it was a man's job. Now the one we can sing a man's song. Betty Betty this man I run from. Could have never deny the king, you know. Now for them a move like last sheep, you know. All who did that dance at the trail. Then I wanna go on the edge. Cause a king man thing. Yeah, I'm the king man thing. King man thing. Yeah, I'm the king man thing. Oh, you mean king man thing? Yeah, I'm the king man thing. Oh, king man thing. Yeah, I'm the king man thing. I'm the king man thing. the feet and bless the cup, 32s on the beat. Give thanks to the leprosy, we will carry the day. In the street, that's a day, every night like these. When I play, to find the need, white t-shirt, the feet, I'm gonna need no sneakers. Sunday, I'm gonna be blessed when I play like breeze. I heard of a speech, they just speak out here, that I said. Standing up to live there. Welcome to Kingston every day. It's a summer every night, feel like a Friday. Every night till I'm sharing on my eyes, I'm in the Friday. Still in the red light, and I'm ready to take the day I'm everybody dance, catch the energy.
That was nice.
You need to sit down on the scene and take a picture.
DJ Khaled. It's all the best when you want to see a million. We got you from the long just like the other dance. We got you to lead the man of beat.
Ready? What is? Take it back, Seth. Go on the Instagram.